All right, everybody, we're starting our next presentation here. It's, what time is it, Jeremy? It's 4 o'clock. So we're getting close to the big drawing at 5:40 for the travel voucher. That's always fun. And the band is already setting up, so folks get ready for the party to continue. I am honored to have Jeremy Powell here today, the CTO of Zyston. And I don't know everybody who knows you, Jeremy, or Zyston. So give us a couple of sentences about yourself and Zyston.
Yeah, absolutely. So I joined Zyston about 2 years ago as a board member and worked for free for quite some time until the CEO finally says, hey, can I pay you to come on board full time?
That's the way it should work, right?
Yeah, that's the way that
I'm not sure, but anyway.
So, yeah. Yeah, so that's us. Zyston focuses on, we're an MSSP, but we focus on program maturity, and we focus on business outcomes and taking security and translating it into business more than just technology.
That's fantastic, Jeremy. In fact, everything that we tried to do at this Open XDR Summit was talk about outcomes. And we're going to follow that up here because people are here to learn and get swag and party. But
absolutely.
At the summit, we're really trying to evoke some ideas about how they can improve their security posture with Open XDR. So you have a thesis about high touch XDR. Tell me more about that.
I do. So high touch XDR to us is actually pretty simple. So again, we're focused on maturity and outcomes. And any tool in that toolbox that alleviates overhead, that reduces it reduces any kind of level of effort in those types of investigations and those technical things that you're going to dig down into is where we want to be, right? So anything that we do, we have a white glove service around an MSSP, again, focused on maturity and things like that. But what we want to do with Open XDR is we want to bring that to the table as a tool in the toolbox, right? Because we're open on just about anything. If the tool works, then we're going to bring it into the fold. But high touch to us is actually pretty simple in that we sort of set the bar very, very high when it comes to how we interact with our customers, how we deal with incidents, how we deal with all these types of things. And again, this is another type of tool that allows us that level of intelligence and that level of automation to be able to do that type of thing.
That's interesting. Now, you almost alluded to some kind of tool consolidation story. Is XDR to you a way to bring things together, or is it yet just another tool that advances the way of thinking of older tools?
No, I think it's actually a way to consolidate and bring things together, and that's pretty simple, right? When we have a number of tools in our toolbox around SIEMs and around analytics and any of those types of things that you want to do, you want something that's going to reduce that overhead, but allow those analysts and allow those engineers and those threat detection people to be able to do what it is they do, right? You don't want the tool getting in their way.
Right.
You don't want an additional overhead. You want that customer experience to be 100% all the time. And that's where I think Open XDR allows us to have that high-touch service.
Right. Now, you mainly sell to the enterprise, right?
We do.
And so that idea of open means what to them, Jeremy? Why would they be interested? I know why you're interested in open because you talked about that. Why is a customer you're talking to?
So we don't want to put any artificial constraints on our customers' environments or their methodologies or their outcomes. And so when it comes to open, we don't want to force our customers into one certain path. We're, again, focused on that outcome. So any tool that allows us to focus on that rather than just the technology, that's where that comes into play, I think.
And I think that's something we hear from other people today. We've heard a lot about retaining investments, working with what you already have, because, again, what we all know is people have made investments, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And we want to make sure that they understand they can leverage them. Now, let's talk a little bit about how do you bring this white glove idea, right? Because we know there's a talent shortage in the industry, and that's one of the reasons that your business is probably booming, because the people have risen their hands and said, I can't do this. So how do you work with clients in terms of assessing what that white glove service is? How customizable is that? Do you have an a la carte model? Do you have 3 tiers or what? Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I'm just curious how you fit XDR to different types of clients.
So great question, Steve. So it's programmatic in how we address that. We're very rigid in how we're able to execute against that type of thing. But when I talk about high touch and white glove, we are very, very close to our customers. We have never not been close to our customers. We know what their business is. We know what their expectations are. We understand the outcomes around what their business goals are in relation to security and risk and compliance. And so adding another tool in the toolbox to be able to do that and produce and have another intelligent stream to again lower the overhead of the analyst or the engineer or whatever is going to be part of that issue, and being able to do their job unencumbered by anything that pushes them down a certain programmatic path, if that makes sense.
It does, it does. And I want to just ask more about outcomes. So are you talking more about, hey, I can actually tell you your business has half the risk now? Or are you looking at things like MTTD, mean time to detection, mean time to response? How do you communicate that value that you bring to a client?
That is a fantastic question. So again, we are about maturity, and we're going to assess an organization in their program's maturity. We're going to assign a score, okay? And we're going to put a roadmap for investment to make that score better. So again, what we're doing is taking complicated security things, and we're able to communicate those in a business way up the chain, right? So if you have a score that's out there that's 1 to 100, and let's say you're a 50, and you ask the CFO for a bit of investment around a tool, a technology, a methodology, or a project, we can say, you know, you executed against the roadmap, and you got a score increase from a 35 to a 42, that's easy to go back to a CFO and go, hey, I need another 750 grand for this additional project, and it's going to move the score this way.
Yeah.
And so anything to automate that, anything to build intelligence sources, anything to get out of the way and allow us to interact with our customers in the way that we should.
That makes a lot of sense, Jeremy. Geez, that is pragmatic. I just like the linearity of it, that it's really easy to kind of get, why am I spending X to get Y?
Right.
So we had a lot of discussion this morning about careers and career panels and how to advance your career. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a hard time first, because not everybody would work for free for 2 years, Jeremy, before they said, hey, I think I should pay you for what you're doing. So maybe that's not the best career story. What would you throw to the room in terms of a nugget, in terms of why was that? Why did that make sense to you? I mean, it's kind of counterintuitive.
I tell this story a lot, enough to where all of my business partners say it's boring, but I'll tell it to everybody here, and this is important to me, is that I was a CISO at a large software company, okay? And I did that for a number of years. And we spent an enormous amount of money with an MSSP, because we were like any other software company. We didn't have the internal tool set, you know, right? So let's outsource this thing. That's a pretty natural type of thing. And what my board and my leadership used to ask me constantly was, hey, Jeremy, are we in a defendable position? That's the first question. And two, how can you tell me definitively whether or not this program is working, okay? And I could get to that answer if I had an analyst in a couple of days, right? Or a couple of analysts or a couple of people from the MSSP. But I could never really narrow that down to say, this is what the program looks like, and this is where we should invest to make it better for these business reasons, okay? And so when I was able to transition over here to Zyston, that was the number one reason that I went, because I had an organization that had a methodology and a product and a philosophy around taking that and making it, you know, translating security to business. And I don't know about you, but how many CEOs do you know outside of tech companies that are really interested in security?
Yeah.
They're really interested in, hey, are we in a defendable position, and is this working?
Yeah.
And what's the risk profile?
Well, it could take us down a whole different talk track, which we don't have time to, but we know that boards are getting more hands-on with the CEO about what metrics matter, because they have a fiduciary responsibility to keep everybody out of jail. So it's becoming a much more well-known problem, I think. So I think it's helping us all in many ways. Jeremy, last question. Was there anything that I didn't ask you that you'd love me to ask today, or you'd love to share with the room?
Let's see. A good question around that is, how do you see tools, technology, like, so people, process, and technology, out of those three things, what's really the most important thing in your business? And I would say technology is probably the least important, right? Because there's always something new coming along. Okay. Yep. Process, that's pretty easy to figure out, but people is sort of the number one, right?
Yeah.
I cannot tell you how many times in my career where we've taken a chance on somebody who is smart, capable, and motivated, but not necessarily aligned to what we're trying to do, and given them the opportunity to grow, given them the opportunity to mature and make our business better, and invest in that person so that they can, the returns for us. So
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Michael Crean's, the last speaker, actually said something very similar. It is about people. I think security is about people, because we know it's a stressful life.
Yes.
You wouldn't do this if you didn't think you were doing good for the world and you were interested in the tech. So those two things together make for good secret sauce, don't they?
Absolutely.
Jeremy, thanks so much for being at the Open XDR Summit today. Really an honor to have you on stage. Let's give it up for Jeremy from Zyston.
Thank you, guys.
All right,
Appreciate
thank
it.
you.